The Battle of the Gods begins with KamiKatsu. Really did enjoy this recent episode. I guess I have to clarify for some that seen my last video about the bad CGI in KamiKatsu. I actually really love the show. I will criticize issues within a show, but it doesn't mean necessarily that I don't like the show. This is easily fighting for one of my top 5 of the season so far. It just kind of, it's fighting with dangers in my heart and just kind of go back and forth. But I really do love this series, and it's just absolute bonkers state, and that continues in the recent episode. It looks like I was actually right. One of my predictions was correct in the idea that I believe that Yukito wished this world to be. Now, my thought process there was that he wished for it, Mitama made a world and then transferred him to it, not necessarily that Mitama heard him say that and goes, where in the future of this planet do we get to that point? Okay, we're just going to jump way ahead and to this point in which the Earth no longer has the concept of gods, and apparently it was at this point the Empire, or this empire, sort of got rid of the concept of gods and put rules and created archons, and it was all this big, massive, like, computer system. So, obviously indicates that this is a super future world of ours that went to ruins and is kind of kept in a state by the Empire and the system they created long after the Emperor himself is dead. So, again, very interesting little twist to the whole thing, and it sort of creates a whole new avenue for the story to go, and I guess that's technically the logical next step of the story, because obviously this entire time we've kind of built up this idea of we gotta get Mitama stronger. So we need to get her followers. So we're going to create the concept of gods. And it was sort of already doing that. So there's only so far that you can really go with that concept. Yukito will create a concept that he thinks is the most efficient to create followers for Mitama. But eventually, once that's established, what next? And it seems like, based on what this episode did, the next step is to, I guess where they're going is a battle between who can get the most followers. Because at some point in this episode, Loki says, I don't like this current world. I want to destroy this system, destroy it for me because I can't do it, because I've been restrained not to be able to do it. But at the same time, it seems like Loki likes the idea of becoming a god. And yes, that there is a ton of different archons. They already kind of insinuate there's a lot of archons, these people that are blessed by the Emperor, which are basically just creations. And it seemed like poor Otar. Otar is the only one that actually wanted to keep the system as it is. Poor Aoyuki just wanted to keep it as it is, and Loki's like, no, all of us wanted to get rid of this system. And I don't know if it's going to be the same for the rest of them, but at least with Loki found out that she's sort of similar to Mitama. Now, this is going to get into a more broader question mark of the whole thing, because each of these archons that were created by the Empire were named after gods. And Loki now wants to destroy the system so that he could become a god, and he even tested with another village to see if, he created these visions and stuff for people, and they started worshiping Loki and got more powerful. So it implies that, similar to Mitama and the concept of gods itself, the more followers, the more power. And I don't know if it's insinuating the rest of them want to do that, but it seems like Yukito believes, okay, I do want to get rid of this system. In Yukito's mind, he kind of thinks logically in the idea of, this is not a good system, so let's get rid of that first. Let's have this is stage 1. Let's just get this out of the way. Now, the big question mark is going forward, what do we do? And it seems like Yukito immediately is realizing, I have to make Mitama the ultimate god of this world, because the other archons will come after us. And so we have to sort of make her more powerful than the rest of them so that they can't come and harm us. So it, like I said at the very beginning, is turning into a battle of the gods, which is super interesting for a direction for the series to go. And I think that's probably going to turn this idea of, and it's going to be really interesting if they, again, I'm not thinking this is going to get too in-depth with this stuff. This is kind of one of those aspects of a comedy, ecchi, isekai. It's no longer isekai. We can no longer call it isekai at this point, though you don't want to say that out loud. Like, I'm struggling. Do I put in my thumbnail, so it's not an isekai question mark? Because that's just extreme spoiler, but it's the best hook. But it's interesting in the idea that this is something that shouldn't have, like, a deep storyline. You don't expect it to because it's a dumb comedy and raunchy, but it actually has something cool in here. Like, I love whenever something is so dumb, but has something cool in it. Like, it's doing more with its story than most serious shows do, and that's kind of a shock. Or maybe it's the fact that it's not expected that it shocks you more. But it's interesting, and I'm curious how deep you'll get into it. Is Loki going to start to create followers? And will Loki end up creating the same system as the Empire in order to gain followers quickly and then realize that at some point? But I think the funny aspect and the interesting aspect that's going to come up is how do each of them choose to create followers? Because essentially Yukito is going to have to become his father, basically, and try to create a religion that will draw in more people quicker and more solidified than what Loki will, or any of the other Archons. And that's going to be super cool. But no, I like the original, like, I love how they play out Mitama, because Mitama's just like, yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, it's just the future world. You said you wanted this, and so I just, like, look forward, and this is what I got you. And he's just like, I hate gods. I hate them so much because they do stupid crap like this. I also love when she went over to the electrical system and touched it, and then just, like, while you have this serious conversation of Loki, you use this... It's so good. They really plan the comedy really well in this episode, despite the fact that it, like I said, it's technically a very serious topic they're getting into, and divulging the world itself and how everything's working. It's super good. But honestly, besides the fact that I kind of criticized the CGI and the live action filter, which again, I acknowledge the live action filtered is kind of comedic, and so it kind of works for me, whereas I can't really forgive the CGI monsters. It actually looked really good. I even like the previous episode looked really good. The battle between Atar and Mitama, it had some rough spots in the CGI hands, but it looked really good. Like they know where to put the efforts into it, and they're doing really well with the designs. Like I really do love the Archon's designs, and it has me kind of excited to see if they'll show some of the other ones. They showed a brief silhouette, a bunch of them, and I really want to see a couple of them to see how they actually look, because I like that style of almost the like digitally infected type of self. It's kind of reminds me of Twilight Princess, that style, like that creature thing that was always with Link. But yeah, but it was funny that I actually called the voice of Kuren as well. At some point I was watching the show, and then it cut to Altar, and Altar was talking to Loki and talking about how Loki was, stalling him or something like that. And I heard Loki's voice, and I'm like, it's such a distinct voice. This Seiyu is so distinct, I know her. Like, every show that this Seiyu is in, I immediately recognize her. One example being Land Lustrous. It's a very, like, it's a woman slayer type of voice. It's the very pretty, very handsome female character. They do those roles a lot. And so the moment I heard that feminine but gruffy, almost in the chest type of voice that Seiyu has, I was like, wait, I've heard this voice in this show before. It's Kuren. So I knew, it's like one of those aspects of like, probably something that was completely out of nowhere for like the manga, because you can't hear them. But in the anime, it's like, wow, that was extremely obvious because it's the same Seiyu. The only thing they could really do to really alter that is just to have them not, I guess, have the same Seiyu for Kuren as it is for Loki. But it's fine. It's a cute catch. Like, if you catch it, it's kind of fun. But no, everything around Loki is kind of interesting because it sort of kind of creates the question mark of what exactly is her goals. Because it seems like there's a part that Loki wants the idea of becoming a god, but at the same time, just really does like what the world used to be. This idea of people being free and having fun, while at the same time having a god system. Which is kind of interesting because in most cases with a god figure, there is devotion to it, and in a lot of cases with a lot of religions, there's restrictions. So it's like she wants to break from it, but at the same time wants to create it. Unless it's an aspect of wanting to create in whatever form she wants. Which again is sort of plays well into the story to be able to continue on, because each of these Archons will probably want their own way of seeing the world and how they create their followers and how their followers follow them. Again, if they want to get that interesting. Again, my mind wants to immediately believe this is just a dumb comedy show with ecchi and stuff, but it seems like the writer has some really cool ideas in there. But it was funny when they were creating the doctrines and everything like that. It's like, everybody has to love my sister, or everybody has to wear 10%, all the females have to wear 10% clothing at all times. This show does have some really good edgy, and I have to admit that a lot of the designs with it kind of works out. I mean, like, a lot of the shots of Altara, I really like Altara's design, and that's partly because I like Aoyuki. Anyways, this is my thoughts on episode 5 of KamiKatsu. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and a membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody it does, and y'all take care.